This is cooperation for survival. Western counterparts are very much afraid. They do everything to undermine it. Chinese leadership understands very, very well and very deeply what is going on. This initiative will be the fundamental base for the future peace. This time it's very special and very exceptional because of international environment, which is extremely turbulent and I would say pretty aggressive towards both of us, both Russia and China. And we did hear a lot of speculations in the previous period about, primarily in the West, of course, about the essence of relationship between Russia and China. So the Western position is to try to demonstrate that Russian and Chinese leadership are not on the same wave, so to say, that they are not sharing everything in terms of assessment of today's situation. And on the one hand, Western counterparts are very much afraid of deepening relationship between Russia and China. On the other hand, they do everything to undermine it. And I think that this visit has demonstrated absolutely clearly a couple of things. First of all, Chinese leadership understands very, very well and very deeply what is going on in the world and what is going on between Russia and the West, between Russia and Ukraine. I think people in Russia are extremely positive about Chinese position, because China is declaring its will to restore peace, which is not the case in the West, by the way. This is fantastic that yesterday, during this visit, Secretary Blinken officially, publicly said that he was, and the United States administration were against any peace agreements in Ukraine because they believe it's not a good solution. That's absolutely unbelievable what they are saying, actually. And so the negotiations between President Putin and Chairman Xi demonstrated, first of all, that Russia is listening to the Chinese position very carefully about Ukraine, about this conflict. Secondly, Russia and China are close to the relationship, which is not an alliance, of course, but something very, very close to alliance. The leaders and the nations understand each other very well and will do everything to work together on solving all possible issues between them and around them. I think it was a very clear endorsement on the Russian side by the Chinese initiative. And actually, when China published this position paper, I think everybody emphasized here that it's basically nothing to be against in this paper. This is a setup of principles which are absolutely indispensable to achieve peace in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine. That's just universal framework for any peace settlement of any conflict. And I think Russian side, both political establishment and broader public, were very much impressed by the recent achievement by Chinese diplomacy when China managed to help Iran and Saudi Arabia to reach a normalization relationship, which is an absolute landmark agreement for the whole Middle East. So this is the first time China demonstrated that Beijing is one of diplomatic capitals of the world, actually, a real big player, big actor in the international scene. So I think that Putin and Lavrov and all Russian officials during this visit confirmed that they are ready to work with China, with Ukraine, with the West, with anybody to implement the principles laid out in this peace initiative. And I'm sure, and I agree with President Putin, what he said yesterday, that sooner or later, but this initiative will be the fundamental base for the future peace. As Americans used to say, it needs two to tango. So peace negotiations, work on peace agreement is only possible if both sides of the process understand that they need it. As I said, it's not the case yet. Not the case on the Ukrainian side, not the case on the Western side. Exactly the opposite. What we hear and what we see, this is a strong commitment of the United States and the European Union to fuel this conflict, to enhance military support of Ukraine, including new models and new kinds of weapons. As British Defense Ministry said yesterday, they will send to Ukraine ammunition with depleted uranium, which is actually a new stage of escalation. And unfortunately, Russia, which demonstrated several times its will to launch a peace process, starting from a year ago, actually, when this process, the negotiating process started, and Ukraine at that point was a bit more eager to have this talks, but it was basically prohibited by Americans and British. And in this situation, again, I'm absolutely sure that after a while, when Ukrainians and the West will understand that they have no chance to win, I mean, militarily win in this war, they will be back to the negotiating table. And on this table, we will see the Chinese proposal. It's quite obvious that we are entering a completely new era in our relationship, uncomparable to what we had before ever. This is a very deep understanding on both sides that in years to come, maybe in decades to come even, the world will face enormous turbulence. And this turbulence will be based on attempts by the United States to keep hegemony in the international affairs. And Americans, as we know, they will do basically everything to destroy all who challenge their primacy, to challenge their hegemonic status. Which means that for Russia and China, it's not just a cooperation for development, for mutual benefit, and so on. This is cooperation for survival in this new world. And this is a cooperation for to build a new international system, basically. And what President Xi said in Moscow after negotiations, and those talks were exceptional. I mean, both lengths of private meeting between Xi and Putin, and then official negotiations on all levels, and then a meeting with the Russian Prime Minister when President Xi told him that it would be great to go immediately to China and to start to implement all plans on the governmental level. I think this is just signs of understanding that this is not about just another kind of partnership, even strategic partnership. It's about a completely new interaction to build a world where Russia and China will feel secure. Without that, we will not be able to feel it.